Welcome to Saving America. This is your host, Dr. David D. Shine. Our series of interviews for Saving America establishes that the world is full of interesting people. And I think after you hear this interview, you'll agree with me that Claudio Gutierrez is an interesting person. He is an engineer and entrepreneur who helps industry leaders optimize their projects and operations. This makes their organizations more efficient and profitable. Born in Nicaragua, his family was forced to flee the repressive leftist government of the Sandinistas in 1980. He earned his degree in industrial and systems engineering from Florida International University. He is the founder and president of Valens Project Consulting. That was in 2017, and he's still at it today. And he has also taken on a new challenge. And Claudio Gutierrez is running for Texas State Representative in District 147. He's lived in that district since 2007. We welcome Claudio Gutierrez for his first appearance on Saving America.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shine, for having me on your podcast. I'm looking forward to having a good conversation and contributing with my experience to shape Saving America.
Well, it's entirely our pleasure. As you know, we ask our guests 3 questions. And our first one, in your early life, you had the challenges that many others may not have faced. You came to a new country after the situation in Nicaragua. That must have been a very difficult time in your life. Share with our audience how you managed to thrive and earn a degree in engineering.
Well, don't remember when we fled in Nicaragua, but I know that it happened almost in the middle of the night, like in the movies, because my father had been working for the previous administration. He was a cabinet member for the Somoza administration. And when the Sandinista revolution overthrew Somoza, every cabinet member, everybody that had been involved in the previous administration had a target on their backs. So we fled to Colorado, to Fort Collins, Colorado, where my father was a professor at Colorado State University. Now, that's where I grew up the first few years of my life. I remember not knowing the language for a while. I remember snow. I remember all these. I had very fond memories from those times. But what got me in the path an engineer was, well, it all starts at home. I had very supportive parents. My father himself was a civil engineer. My mother was a biologist that never really practiced her degree because she stayed at home and raised my sister and I. And even any type of extracurricular work that we did, she made fun educational activities out of them. They always emphasized the importance of education, telling us that we had to surpass our expectations for Hispanics that lived in other parts of the country. This was especially true when we moved to Miami, Florida for a few years. She told me, look, we're being categorized as people that are underperforming, so we have to prove that everybody wrong when it comes to education. So we always went above and beyond. And luckily, they always stayed on top of us, my sister and I, when we were in the university, and they helped us to keep our eyes on the prize, so to speak. A good education is the foundation for opportunities. So you know how they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity? I think education is the base of that phrase.
Fantastic. And I can certainly relate to that story. So with your background, many might assume you would be a liberal supporting Democrats. However, that is not the direction you took. Tell our audience how you formed your political viewpoint.
Dr. Shine, it's precisely because I've seen what happens under socialism, what happens under leftism, what happens under communism. That's precisely why I embrace Republican ideals. I love free market competition. I like achievement, and I like navigate life on a merit-based basis, right? I also had a personal kind of skin in the game. My parents were both put in jail under this repressive regime in Nicaragua in the 1980s. My mother for hiding her brothers for forced conscription. She would hide them in the trunk of her car, go into the Costa Rican embassy, and then come out and do that with her other brothers. She was eventually caught and put in jail for a few weeks. My father was randomly at times put in jail whenever possible, just as a form of intimidation. I've seen this repression firsthand. Now, I also believe the Republican views are good. They're supportive of people without being demeaning. They build people up to achieve on their own instead of promising handouts that make people lazy and complacent. So, oh, and also, I remember going to Nicaragua in the 1980s, and I would remember seeing the empty supermarket shelves, the desperation of people wanting to leave Nicaragua, and I knew that was not an environment that I wanted to be in.
That's boy, that's quite a crash course in how things work in the real world, isn't it?
Totally. I mean, communism, leftism sounds excellent on paper. It has never worked anywhere that it's been tried.
Absolutely. So, as you know, I ran for office for state representative as a brand new candidate in 1992. And you are now running for office for the first time for a state representative here in Texas. So, tell our audience something about how you formed your decision and what you hope to accomplish, and maybe a little bit about District 147 here in Texas.
Sure, sure. So I never really wanted to actively be a politician, but I took a look around me a couple of years ago and things were going downhill. Again, I'm from Nicaragua, which is a very poor country, and there are better roads in Nicaragua than many parts of District 147, which Houston, being a very rich city, that's completely unacceptable. I would hear police sirens 2, 3, 4 times a day, and I still do to this day. And it wasn't like that before. So I decided to see where I could help, and I realized that the state representative for the district had not been opposed in the previous election. And I hate walking into the voting booth and seeing Democrat candidates just waltzing into their office because nobody opposes them, nobody challenges them. So that was one of the main reasons. I also decided to run because if we excite the bases, if we get the Republicans and conservatives in the area to come out because there's actually a Republican candidate, it lays down the groundwork for county-wide races. So we can finally turn Houston red. And more importantly, I believe that the residents of District 147 would benefit greatly from conservative ideals such as increased competition, limited government, and keeping things under local control. Now, 147 is a big district. It covers parts of the Heights, most of downtown, parts of Midtown where I live, and then it's a very gerrymandered Pizza West. It's, again, very, very gerrymandered. And the composition is mostly Hispanic, about 40% Hispanic, 30% African American, and the rest is a variety of other nationalities. You would think that my Hispanic last name, you would think that my Hispanic in this race, but sadly, most Hispanics do not vote. So my mission right now is to get the word out, to let them know that I exist, because every single time I mention who my candidate is, from talk to him a couple of weeks ago to the man in the streets, every time I tell them who my candidate is, they recoil in frustration, in disgust. So I'm going to capitalize on that feeling to get elected this November.
Well, that sounds like a very worthwhile goal. And I'm sure that if the people in your district get a chance to meet you and understand who you are, hopefully they will turn out in big numbers and support you. And it's just such an important thing. And again, even though I did run for office, I didn't get elected, but I did feel more connected to my community, and or a lot of people who came out and said, we really appreciate what you're doing. And like you said, it's important to have choices in political races. So we certainly support that.
And at this point, having seen firsthand what leftism can do to a nation, I mean, it demoralizes generations of the citizens. I almost feel like it's a moral duty that I have against one of the most woke, one of the most leftist members of the Texas House.
That's so good to know. So how can our audience get more information about you and your campaign?
Well, they can always visit my website, my campaign website. It's my first name, Claudio, then the number 4, and then the entire Texas.com. So Claudio for Texas They can also find me on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter.
That sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Claudio Gutierrez, candidate for state representative in District 147, for joining us on Saving America.
Thank you very much for having me, Dr. Shine. And yes, I will subscribe.
It's a lot of fun to be with you. And we are asking our audience also to subscribe to Saving America, which can be found on multiple sites, including YouTube and Spotify.